What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of El Jardín Perdido. Today, we're in a heat dome. Alright, so I mentioned this in some of my previous videos, but yeah, we're in a heat dome, as I'm sure most of you in the southern United States are aware of and are dealing with. In Houston, Texas here, it's been triple digits for at least a month and a half. I almost want to say 2 months, with a couple of breaks of maybe 90 degrees and practically zero rain. So as you can imagine, the food forest is hurting a little bit. If I compare my yard to most of the neighbors that are all flat lawns with maybe a couple of trees, they all look really bad. So considering it's not that bad. So I don't use a lot of city water, and we are in a mandate right now to limit our use of city water, but yeah, I don't like it because A, it's hard, there's a lot of calcium. If we're in a drought and you're just soaking with city water, it's not good for the soil. There's chlorine in it too if it's coming straight from the hose. So really all I've been doing is kind of spritzing everything and just keeping a little bit of moisture on everything as the sun goes down. But yeah, the water table is definitely really low now. I can see a lot of my trees aren't able to tap down to that. So hopefully we find some relief soon. I know our temperatures are getting in the 90s at the end of the week, and that honestly feels like a breath of fresh air compared to what it's been. We're not as bad as Arizona, like 130s, but we've been a solid 105 to 110. You know, when they measure the temperature, that's in the shade usually. It's ambient, and so in direct sun, things have been hurting. So I'm going to show you around a little bit, show you what's been thriving still and what hasn't. Not too much has been thriving, other than a moringa I'm looking at right now. I have touched base on the fact that I've been going through some neighborly issues, but that's, as far as I know, kind of resolved, which is awesome. But I have neglected the hell out of this food forest. And while I could get at it right now and tackle some things, I'm still going to leave it alone. At most, maybe some mulch. I do need to spread some mulch around with this heat, but I do want to do a lot of pruning, a lot of chop and drop, but I don't want to do that yet. All of that higher up canopy is actually shading the lower things. So once this weather kind of lets up, I can prune things back. Hopefully we get some rain soon and we can get some growth between now and the winter. We got hit with both, you know, some pretty good freezes last winter. We got, I mean, a tiny little spring where the weather was good. I grew some things, I harvested some things, great. But yeah, the temperature got crazy really quick, really early in the year this year. So there's a few things that I'd usually get harvests on that I haven't. But let me show you guys around a little bit. So we're just in the backyard now, but say these are my Pisang Kalang bananas. They are not doing well. Early on, they started, you know, they do this in the winter too. They'll kind of like protect their trunks, which is cool. They keep trying to put off more canopy, but you know, they're getting burnt and stuff. There's not much I could do about that. This is the moringa I was talking about. So if you need some plants that thrive in ridiculous heat and weather and drought, moringa, katuk behind it, is doing well. This area seems to retain a little more water than most. I will give it that. Somehow this comfrey is still alive. Everything, this is not a variegated ginger behind me. You know, everything's a little toasted. That is turmeric. Agave is doing fine. This agave is not doing so fine. And the soil's pretty moist, so that may just have some other issues. Might need to just have some better draining soil. And of course, cactus is doing pretty good. Not as bad as Arizona, where it's literally killing cacti too. I have bamboo throughout my yard. I give it a good soak at night, but I believe that's Buddha. And yeah, it doesn't do as well in the heat. Again, all my clumps of bananas are gonna look like that. As you guys can see, the goat/chicken pen, I've let it go wild. And the majority of it is just wild sunflowers. I'm letting the bees have fun with it, and we got a lot of grass coming in. This will be another video, but I do plan on letting my chickens back in there. We'll see how that works out. Gourds They just made it to how they had to grow. I actually do have some little a-hole bugs on there. But anyway, the gourds made it to harvest basically, and I'm just kind of drying them out. Sadly, my pawpaw this is one of my younger pawpaws, but it's not doing great. I can maybe mulch it a little heavier, but I'd say about down to here is dead from getting blasted by the sun, even though I do have, I have canopy all around it, so it's just not enough. This is the pawpaw I harvested from in one of my last videos. It's shedding some leaves, not looking great. Desperate need of water here. Pineapples look good though. I still didn't unpot them from the winter. But I have jalapenos, I believe, here. They're all wilted. I mean, they're peppers, They should be able to tolerate a little more heat, but I guess not. Eggplant is not being productive, but it is going nuts. It's got some flowers, but I notice when it's really hot, they don't set fruit. Kind of a mess here, but I have a opportunistic mulberry. All my mulberries are shedding a lot of leaves, and so is my ficus, my fig tree. It's basically mulching itself, which is fine. They're known to do that. One plant that is not doing well, I have one in the front yard as well, the elderberries. They're doing horribly in this, and they'll probably die back to the ground. Pawpaws don't like their feet wet, but they do like a lot of water. And I mean, they're obviously sunburnt too. And it's being shaded by a mulberry. I think that's Chinese something or other tree. It's invasive, but they have a little shade, but it's just not enough. So yeah, I've always wanted to do water catchment. I think that's what I was trying to touch base on the beginning of this video was I don't really like soaking with city water. Ideally, I'd like to have rain catchment, but my roof is asphalt, and when it's triple digits, you can only imagine a dark roof in the blazing sun is going to be like 140 degrees. But what happens is when you're getting any kind of precipitant on that, when it's that hot, it's really going to leach out a lot of weird chemicals and stuff, being asphalt. I did build this pergola that is just kind of a clear roof here. But again, catching off that means I still catch off the asphalt unless I was to put a gutter on that asphalt somehow and divert the asphalt water from, I know plastic's not much better, but I could try to divert water from up there and only catch water off there, or perhaps even catch something off the goat sheds there, maybe build something on an incline. But yeah, mainly I just wanted to touch base with you guys. Apparently the food forest system here works pretty well. Admittedly, I could have kept up with things a little more, did a little earlier chop and drop this year, gotten a little more mulch on the ground, and things would probably be fortified a little more. But considering, I'd say things are doing pretty well. Let me know in the comments what kind of issues you guys have been dealing with throughout this heat dome, what area you're in, what's been working, what hasn't been. I know someone on one of my gardening groups was like, hey, what's still alive in people's gardens right now? And I was, telling them moringa, katuk. Surprisingly, I still have tomatoes hanging on, which is pretty crazy. Again, not producing, that's a given, but I'd like to be able to at least hang on to them enough to come into the fall, because fall is a really nice growing season for us in Houston, and if you have an early start, you can actually get a lot of productivity. So I'm hoping in the next month into September, things cool down a little bit, we get a little bit of moisture, and I have at least a little window to get something growing, get a couple harvests. All right guys, well that's gonna do it for today's video. As always, thanks for tuning in. Until next time.